Friends. Good afternoon. I'm Reverend Michelin. You all know who I am. And on behalf of the Carrie and Fenn Foundation, I'd like to welcome you to the Seniors Program. The program is brought to you by the Carrie and Fenn Foundation in partnership with the Ajax Legion, Parkland Ajax, Grandad Cares, and Pindab Limited. So who is Paul Culver? Paul Culver is my dad. He was a wonderful advocate for community, and Sparky Johnson is also a wonderful advocate for seniors and in the community. And I just wanted to say this is the first time that I've run the program where my beautiful friend Sparky has not been with me. Sadly, Sparky passed away February 21st, 2022. And in her honor, because she's no longer with us, I'd like to do a little blessing in her honor. I was very close to Sparky, as many of us were, and I'd like to do this blessing in her honor. If you're drawn just to close your eyes, that's fine. If not, please just listen to these words. This is for our beautiful friend Sparky. I give you this one thought to keep. I am with you still. I do not sleep. I am 1,000 winds that blow. I am the diamond glints on snow. I am the sunlight on ripened grain. I am the gentle autumn rain. When you awaken in the morning's hush, I am the swift uplifting rush of quiet birds in circled flight. I am the soft stars that shine at night. Do not think of me as gone. I am with you still in each new dawn. Thus I pause in this unending prayer, ending as we begun, with undying gratitude for everything you have given and for all that you have done. Meg Witch. And that's a blessing from Blue Turtle. And as we know, Sparky was with the Turtle Clan. So we have a wonderful group of people. Thank you for listening to that, by the way. We have a wonderful group of people lined up to help us. I'm just going to get into that now because we're 1:09 and we have put the program down now to an hour and a half. I think some people, as Terry, you were saying, that sometimes their days are getting full now. So what we're going to do, sorry, I'm doing this on my phone. We have great topics and speakers lined up. Here are the rules for our program. Our speakers will start and take any questions they may have in their allotted time. If you have a question you'd like to ask, please type the word question in the chat box. If you don't want to say your question out loud, you can ask us to do so for you. And for those who want to ask us a question ourselves, our admin will let us know. Our speakers are professionals with their respective fields. We are not medical professionals. We are not doctors. We do not give medical advice. Always consult a qualified medical professional for individual medical care. We take no responsibility or liability. Our waiver, which you agreed to during your registration process, applies. Our program waiver applies, which is now available on our website. So let's get started. So we have two speakers today, Christina Montoya, and she's a nutritionist for arthritis. And then we have crime prevention with Martin Franson, a senior support coordinator with the Durham Regional Police. And then, as I said, trivia. So, Christina, would you like to get started?
Here I am. Thank you for having me here. My name is Christina Montoya. I'm known as the arthritis dietitian. I've been living with rheumatoid arthritis and Sjogren's for over 20 years now. And so I have been giving a lot of talks and presentations on nutrition and arthritis. So I tried to make this one a little fun for you and interactive. So when I ask you to maybe say yes or no, you can say it on the chat. So we can maybe have more fun with this presentation. I do have a website, arthritisdietitian.com, and currently I have a freebie. It's called A Gentle Digestive Guide, and this is actually a perfect way to kind of relieve the pain from heartburn, bloating that could be pretty frequent, right? When we take certain medications or as we age. So if you want to grab that guide, so I welcome you to visit my website and download it. Here's a little agenda.
Oh, there we're back.
Can you see it?
Yes.
Can you see me? Okay. So my agenda for today.
Okay.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay. So first, do you often feel confused or stressed out with all the information out there when it comes to nutrition and arthritis? Maybe you can tell me on the chat, but I do. And I'm a dietitian and I've seen so much information flowing from the past 10 years specifically, really selling the people that a specific diet is going to cure their arthritis, is going to cure their diseases, and it's not that simple. When it comes to arthritis, it's not really, and arthritis is a symptom, right? Arthritis means inflammation of the joint. And then we have arthritis that is an inflammatory arthritis, like the one that I have, rheumatoid arthritis, or you have osteoarthritis, which is the most common form of arthritis, and is also more present in seniors of people older than 65 years old. But younger people can also experience or suffer from osteoarthritis because of an injury. Athletes tend to have also osteoarthritis. So arthritis is not just a condition or a symptom for the older people, but also younger people can experience arthritis. And food is not the only trigger for pain. We have weather changes. You can actually feel the storm coming even faster than the weatherman. You have also, maybe there's a high disease activity. There's a lot of physical and mental stress. You have lifestyle choices. If you're not sleeping well, if you have an infection, if you can't find that family, work, or disease balance. And for women, because we're so lucky with our hormonal makeup, we tend to be more sensitive with any hormonal changes, whether it happens before our period or when we are on menopause. And also arthritis can be triggered, or the flare-up can be triggered when there's way too much activity. Let's say you didn't exercise or move for a whole, I don't know, 6 months, and then all of a sudden you said, oh, I need to exercise. That usually happens in January when everybody wants to hit the gym. And then too much activity can also trigger pain. So I just want you to keep in mind, it's not just about food. So when it comes to eating well, just keep in mind these red flags in all these messages. So any fear-mongering messages like, oh my God, you have to eliminate this food so then you'll be cured, or your arthritis will disappear, or you have to eat these superfoods. Anything that promises quick fixes and guarantees. There's no guarantees in life. I think the only thing that is guaranteed is death, really. And we don't know when that's going to happen. But when it comes to arthritis, be very careful of extreme elimination diets, because that can lead to nutritional deficiencies, fatigue, and other conditions. Typically, people who promote extreme elimination diets, they tend to promote to supplement with very expensive products. So be very careful with that. One trend that it was going on last year for a long time was the carrots and celery juice for arthritis, and that basically you're just adding a few antioxidants, but it's not going to do anything to your arthritis. So to me, I call it #cleanse your gut nonsense. So what are some of those diet myths that are associated with arthritis and nutrition? Nightshades, dairy, and lectins. So here's what I would really like to see you maybe making some comments as to whether yes or no. Eating nightshades like tomatoes, potatoes, eggplants, result in joint inflammation. What do you say to that? Is that true? Is it a yes or no?
Yes or no? I don't think I'm quite sure what a nightshade plant is.
Okay, I will explain that in a bit. Oh no, they're having a hard time getting in. Okay, so I'll go back. So Reverend said, am I saying that carrot and celery juice is not good? So I will say it is a way to add some antioxidants, but when you also blend the carrot and celery juice, a lot of it said in the seniors population, when there is more risk of insulin resistance and also diabetes, we want to avoid that concentrated sugars that even comes from carrots. So you want to eat the carrots like just the regular vegetable. But there is really no evidence showing that both the carrot and celery juice will decrease the pain from arthritis. And yes, so I will explain what the nightshades are. So sorry about the noise here. So here is the answer is no. So nightshades include commonly consumed fruits, vegetables, and spices. And they're typically high in antioxidants, polyphenols, and fiber. So they are actually pretty nutritious. Eggplants, peppers, potatoes, tomatoes. Tomatoes in particular, they're the ones that have the bad rep mostly. But if you think about it, the Mediterranean diet comes from really Italy, all the Mediterranean region, countries. And tomatoes is a staple for them. So that means that all of them are going to trigger or having arthritis. Tomatoes in itself, it just really depends on what type of tomato you may have. Or maybe you may have conditions like a heartburn, that tomatoes may be irritating. But in terms of inflammation, tomatoes, especially when they're cooked with olive oil, herbs like parsley or oregano, in garlic, it's a potent antioxidant. Potatoes are the ones that could have a little bit more of the inflammatory solanine or the component that they kind of blame that the inflammation that can cause inflammation. So when you see a green potato, so here when I'm showing in this video, so when you see a green potato, that means that there's higher concentrations of solanine that may trigger some inflammation. But again, the evidence is not really that strong to say you need to eliminate all nightshades to improve arthritis symptoms. Does that clarify your question about nightshades? Please let me know. I'm watching the comments, or you can maybe ask any questions as I go along. The other one is fact or fiction. Milk and dairy products are inflammatory. What do you think of that?
I would agree.
You will agree. Terry says no.
No.
Reverend says yes. And
Who
okay.
gets the prize?
Who gets the prize? We'll see.
Okay.
So it's fiction, especially, and here we are talking about arthritis, but I want to give you some facts, right? Or some evidence, and then you make your own decision. So in general, if we're talking about seniors' health and dairy products are actually a very a kind of optimal food group when it comes to muscle and bone health. Dairy products are excellent sources of nutrients such as protein, calcium, potassium, phosphorus, and vitamin D. that I can say that there is no plant-based beverage, almond milk, hemp milk, or any of those milks that have this amount of nutrients. The current evidence does not support that eliminating dairy products from your diet will improve arthritis. Otherwise, I will tell you the incidence of inflammatory arthritis in France will be super high because you know how much they love dairy products. However, we need to recognize that the farming processes have changed over the years, right? So nowadays, they're starting to show that cow's milk, just the regular cow's milk, they tend to be higher in a specific protein that is called 81B casein. And it seems to be a little bit more inflammatory. Grass-fed cow's milk and goat's milk have higher levels of a different type of protein that is the A2B casein, which is less inflammatory. So there is a little bit of fact in terms of that inflammation process. I don't know, you probably have seen in the grocery stores, there is a milk that is called A2 milk, and that refers to this specific protein. So sometimes it may not be that you're lactose intolerant, you may actually be intolerant or maybe have some reaction to the cow's milk protein. So if you drink that A2 milk or grass-fed milk, you may actually feel a little bit better. Now, you're welcome. So that's one part. The other, it was actually very interesting, is that a study completed in obese and non-obese women showed that consuming low-fat Greek yogurt prior to the meal protected the gut barrier and reduced inflammation. So if you think about the practices in the Mediterranean, even with South Asians, they tend to eat their meals with a little bit of yogurt. So they either like even put it in their, they eat it with their roti, or they put it in their pita bread, or they actually add it to their rice. And there's some evidence showing that it actually acts as a protective factor for the gut. So it could be anti-inflammatory. So it really depends on what you look at when it comes to whether dairy products cause inflammation or not. Keep in mind that if you have a protein allergy, like the allergy to cow's protein, then that can cause that immune response like rashes, hives, or even anaphylactic shock. And you can also may also experience lactose intolerance, where the lactose enzyme is deficient. And that seems to occur as we age as well. So we don't tolerate fluid milk as much, but we can tolerate fermented dairy because the fermented dairy products like cheese and yogurt, they had already fermented the lactose. So they are naturally low in lactose milk and lactose. So that's kind of what is kind of interesting about dairy products. And the last one that is very common when it comes to lectins, I don't know if you ever heard of lectins, is it true or false? Oh, let's see, want to see the chat. So as we after the menopause, specifically for women, and even for people age 65 and older, there seems to be that there's a decrease in the production of this enzyme that is able to break down the lactose of the sugar that is found in dairy products. That's what I'm referring to. Or there are certain populations that are already lactose have deficient in this enzyme, like the Asian population. So that's why you see a lot of Chinese populations or Japanese that they consume more soy because whether is it because they didn't just, it was not part of their culture, or they just don't, they lack of this enzyme. But however, there are people, they can tolerate milk until forever, right? Imagine like dairy farmers, they've been drinking milk, and that's another way to stimulate the production of the enzyme as well. The way that if you drink milk every day, then you're stimulating the production of that enzyme. So the last one is the lectins. So lectins are called the anti-nutrients because they resist the human digestion. So there was a time when there was a lot of these cases that they say, oh, do not eat beans, do not eat this garbanzo beans or lentils because they cause inflammation. What they did not say is that the people who were eating these types of foods, they were eating a raw diet or raw food diet. So they were only cooking these types of foods for less than 6 minutes. So when we at that time, so at that point, the lectins are still very active and intact, and they could reduce the absorption of calcium, iron, phosphorus, and zinc. So the key is that, yes, they contain lectins, but there is a way to reduce lectins in these particular foods, which is one, cooking at high temperatures, like boiling for like more than 10 minutes. Two, also includes canned foods because they have already been cooked. And three, if you soak them, if you're consuming dry legumes and soak them overnight, you're also reducing the amount of lectins. So even for canned foods, I like to soak them in water for like half an hour before I use them, just to not reduce not only the lectins, but also some of the kind of the non-digestible carbohydrates that can cause gas and bloating and discomfort. The one reality is that we try to, maybe if you are taking any calcium supplements or iron supplements, maybe it's not a good idea to take them when you're eating these types of foods, because there's still some of the fibers, a little bit of the lectins there may interfere with their absorption. Is that okay? Do you have any questions here?
I'm all good. This is really interesting.
Okay, good. Okay, so what is a little bit of the research, and I'm not gonna really dive a lot into it, but just keep in mind that the Mediterranean diet is the king when it comes to anti-inflammatory nutrition, particularly for arthritis. So I developed this graphic when it really shows that diet, there's a growing research showing the effects of certain foods in promoting low-grade inflammation. So if our lifestyle, for many, many years, you are consuming ultra-processed foods, refined sugars, artificial sweeteners, and also excess amounts of red meats, excess of salt, trans fats, or excess of omega-6 fatty acids, it's going to contribute to a low-grade inflammation and also to the exacerbation of conditions like hypertension, diabetes, even also leading to obesity, and gut dysbiosis, or also alteration of the gut bacteria. But there's also other foods like plant foods that are high in fiber, antioxidants, flavonoids, omega-3s that also contribute to the reduction of inflammation. So if you think about red meats in particular, I know there's a lot of controversy and say, oh my God, like what should I go, like a carnivore diet? And others says like go completely vegan. So it's like the extremes. And I would say you still can enjoy your red meat. Just don't have to eat the full like 12 ounces at steak or 12 ounces steak. It's not necessary. Oh, I feel like echo. So here is there's something really interesting when it comes to anti-inflammatory nutrition, because it hasn't been like defined yet. There's a lot of talk of, oh, eat these anti-inflammatory foods and this is the anti-inflammatory diet. But what according to my research and all the events that I participate when it comes to arthritis and inflammation, basically an anti-inflammatory way of eating is a combination of the Mediterranean way of eating or the Mediterranean diet and gut health promoting foods. So this is a chart that I usually use to explain what foods to include weekly, daily, weekly, maybe once or twice a week, monthly, or eventually, right? So like monthly, maybe red meats or sweets. Still, don't deny yourself or don't stop going out because, oh my God, I'm not going to eat that super inflammatory. Like go out and enjoy the barbecue with your friends. Like you can't stop living. But keep in mind that if like 80% of your meals or your food choices are anti-inflammatory, that's what really matters. Here, as I mentioned, I contribute a lot of information and content to the Arthritis Society. And over the past 3 years, I've been submitting or contributing to their Nourish program. So there's a lot of anti-inflammatory recipes. And I created this sample of a meal plan using their recipes. So I could send a copy of this with the links to Carrion, so then you can click on the recipes and have an idea how to make them. And just to finish, I like the 5 principles of an anti-inflammatory way of eating. As first of all is start healing your relationship with food. There's really no like bad foods or like good foods. We always want to see is like what are the types of food that are nourishing you, that are making you feel better. And if on that it's nourishing your gut, that's what is really important. When we nourish your gut with your good fibers, plant foods, they are going to promote anti-inflammatory chemicals that is going to help you to reduce inflammation overall. Add more flavor with herbs and spices. Stay hydrated with water and green tea, because green tea is an antioxidant, but make sure that you don't make it too strong. Just light green tea is enough. And just building your anti-inflammatory plate. And I like to give this example with my culture. There's like, oh my God, don't eat white rice, it's poison. What are you gonna do with white rice? I love white rice. And I know there's many, many communities that love white rice. But white rice, actually, we have seen that it has changed. So when we cook and cool and then reheat white rice, it actually increases the amount of resistant starches that help feeding the good bacteria in the gut. But doesn't mean that you're just gonna eat bowls of rice every day. No, what we want to do is that we want to combine and add other types of anti-inflammatory foods, right? Veggies, you want to add, and whenever it's like accessible to you, like this is like you see, it's very simple. This is like a scrambled soy with some tortillas, quinoa salad with chickpeas. Then in my heritage, I love beans and rice. And then I have here like some apples and yogurt. So building your anti-inflammatory plate is making sure you use healthy fats. I love extra virgin olive oil and avocado oils are like my my favorite healthy fats. Adding herbs and spices, including whole grains or pseudo grains like quinoa. Include vegetables in season, and don't forget about the root vegetables. Like plantain, I love plantain, yams, fruits in season if possible. And just to finish, I know there's some question. So what about supplements? Yeah, so supplements are, I will say there are certain supplements that are important, right? So calcium and vitamin D, they are definitely essential. Calcium, especially if you're taking also medications that the absorption of calcium, like prednisone, you do need to supplement with calcium. And also, if you're not consuming enough calcium in your from dietary sources, then supplemented with like calcium carbonate or calcium citrate is important. Vitamin D, I know the minimum is 800 international units, but we see when it comes to reducing inflammation, I would say that minimum 2,000 international units to reduce the risk of osteoporosis and osteopenia. Omega-3 supplements, it's very like their research is very controversial. Some research show that it's beneficial. Some say that there's really not enough evidence to support supplementation. But I think overall, supplementing with omega-3s is not a bad idea, since it helps us to balance the ratio of omega-6 and omega-3s. So we know the omega-3s are going to be anti-inflammatory. So when it comes to magnesium, it's also a great supplement for muscle health. And it can also help for some people to regulate their bowel movements and for sleep. So I would say calcium, vitamin D, magnesium, and magnesium are really kind of very safe supplements to use that are going to help you to strengthen your muscle and bone health. So just keep in mind that just ditch the diet mentality, work with a registered dietitian that can help you really navigate an anti-inflammatory nutrition, but also according to your resources, what you have accessible. When you go to the internet, there's just so much information out there. And honestly, anti-inflammatory nutrition doesn't need to be so complicated. And doesn't have to be too expensive either. Maybe keep a food journal if you notice that there are certain foods that trigger certain symptoms. Make it small and attainable changes. Maybe try a new food, a recipe, or ingredient every week. Stay hydrated, keep on moving, and talking about just kind of look up credible sources of nutrition information. And just I wanted to promote one program that I'm excited about is this two physiotherapists. And nothing to do with nutrition, but I always find that combination is golden, nutrition and exercise and movement. So they have a free knee strengthening and mobility program every Saturday, and it's all in the chair. So it's fabulous. Very helpful for arthritis and pain. So if you wanna check that out, I can send that information to Karen as well. And just remember, cultivate self-compassion and let go of perfectionism. I believe I'm worthy of love and respect. So every positive change that you make in your lifestyle always matters. So thank you. And I'm just gonna open it for if you have any more questions.
So if anybody has any questions at this time, you can either write it in the chat or I think you said you were going to send some information to Carrie on so she can share that with people.
Yes, so I'm gonna show my face now. Were you able to hear me okay?
I did, yep. I'm in my ice cream shop, so it's a little noisy. People, no. I did hear you okay. How was everybody? Does anybody else have any questions for Christina? Okay, well, that was really interesting. I learned a few things, that's for sure. It's so interesting. Thank you, Terry. It's so interesting, some of the fallacies and folklore that are in and around eating dairy and and certain things. So that that cleared up some here on the screen. If anybody wants to personally get in touch with you.
Oh, so, if you want to get in touch with me, just can email me.
Or what is the information if somebody wants to learn more about what you were talking about, or maybe get a hold of you for a personal consultation? Is that something that you do?
I do. Like right now, I'm actually working on a book for people with Sjogren's and arthritis. So I don't know, like Sjogren's maybe not that common. So I haven't been taking a lot of clients lately. I've been more involved in presentations, and which I'm really happy to do. So again, if you have any questions, I'm gonna drop in my email.
Super. Excellent.
So thank you so much. If you have any questions, please let me know. I will send the information to Karen. And I do have to leave now, but thank you so much for listening to me and participating in my game.
Thank you very much. We appreciate you.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, Martin, are you with us? Martin, can you hear me?
Oh, yeah, I can hear you.
There you are. Okay, Martin Franson, am I saying that correctly?
You are saying that correctly. I'm just going to excuse myself for a second. My allergies are acting up. Be right back.
Oh, okay, well, off he goes. He's a little shy. He's with the Durham Regional Police Services, and he's going to be talking about crime prevention. And then after that, we're going to do a little bit of trivia. Now, we have changed the program. It will end at approximately 2:30. We'll use the same format. If anybody has any questions for Martin, please put them in the chat box. Welcome back, caller. You're on the air.
Yeah, you do that so well. And so smoothly.
Thank you. Thank you.
Great leading. Hello, everybody. How's everybody doing? Hopefully you're doing well despite this weather, but spring is in the air, right? So, you want me to talk about some fraud stuff? Is there anything anybody wants to bring up particularly about fraud? We can address that first, and then I'll bring up a few things that I was thinking about bringing up. Anything in particular?
I just want to say one thing. I get a lot of people, and I'm wondering if they're just talking about specifically things they hear on the internet with regarding to. It seems like a lot of it is from the States and not from here. There's definitely a lot of fraud going on with people asking for money or saying we won, stuff like that. And there's other things where, and this is what I just heard, I didn't know if you've ever seen it, that they get a small child to come up and send a letter or show them a letter to take them to an address that's their home, and then they get robbed. Is that something that's more the States, or?
That one I have not heard of at all. Sometimes what we get is especially if you're traveling on the 401, one of the off ramps, at times you will have someone pulled off to the side of the off ramp. They will lead you to believe that they've run out of gas. They offer you some form of currency, usually of something in the way of jewelry, and ask you to advance them some money. And then they promise when they come back with the gas that they will pay you. And of course, it's all a scam. What also happens in those times, at times when people lean into them or something, a chain that may be around their neck is actually picking off them. They won't realize it. These folks are very good at what they do. Stranger danger. Yes, it's important to help someone that's at the side of the road, may it be the 401 or the off ramp. It's not a safe place for you because there's cars coming in. And out there walking is not a safe place at any time. So the response there would be to dial the telephone. If you're on the 401 or any of the 400 series, all you do is star OPP, and that will, from your cell phone, connect directly to the OPP, a non-911 call. If you're in Durham region, you can do star DRPS, and that will get you right through to the non-911. Or, of course, if they're making you believe that it's a 911 emergency, then, of course, that's appropriate, as opposed to stopping and trying to help them out. Just make that call. If, a whole series of people call about the same vehicle on the side of the road and they need assistance, well, when emergency services show up to assist them, so be it. And if they're the bad guy, well, they're see emergency services, they will disappear very quickly and move on. But yeah, the children one I have not heard of. We do have the shoulder surfers are back. They during COVID, that was one of the good things of COVID. Very few good things about COVID. One of them was that the shoulder surfers, and because they tend to come from the Eastern Bloc countries, weren't allowed to get into the country. And as such, shoulder surfing, which I'll explain to you in just a second, went down greatly. It is back. What it is, it involves you using the debit card. Traditionally in grocery stores, traditionally ladies, you're the biggest target on that one. Why? Because you carry that external source of that purse.
Love and compassion.
That purse, yeah, which I often like to say to people, I call it the it's got everything in there, including the kitchen sink, despite the fact that a lot of the stuff nowadays is on one of these devices. You still seem to carry these things, and you tend to carry them open, such that the zipper is not done. You often will not carry them in a protective manner. I've seen ladies that will wear them over their shoulder, which is absolutely awesome, but not towards your back. It should be towards your front, towards your belly. But it might be uncomfortable, but that is that discomfort is nothing compared to what happens if your identity gets stolen, i.e. your wallet gets pickpocketed from you. And what shoulder surfers do is they get close to you and checkout time. Traditionally, it always seems to be a male, but not all. It doesn't have to be. But what they do is they kind of work their way into the aisle along with you. They get awfully close when you're about to use the pin pad. They tend to have dark glasses on. The reason for that is that they don't want you to see where their eyes are actually looking, and what their eyes are looking at is these things as they navigate through the pin pad. They will acquire the PIN, personal identification number, from the debit card, a credit card, and then as you exit the grocery store onto the parking lot, so you will be met up with someone who's going to distract you. And they can distract you in a whole variety of ways. They used to put a map in front of you. Sometimes it is a letter in front of you. Someone will lead you to believe they can't speak English very well, ask for directions. There's a whole variety of different things that they're doing. And what is going on there is that's the partner to the person that's got your PIN. They're going to pickpocket you. The third person is off going to pickpocket you, or if you put your purse down in your vehicle, they're going to access your vehicle. And in doing so, they take the card, and before you've left the parking lot, they're using that card and they're running it up through tap as well as maximum daily withdrawals, because they have both the card and they have the PIN. The other thing they're able to do nowadays, of course, is every one of these devices, that being a cell phone carrier, has very high quality cameras. So they could be in line with you as you're receiving your goods. They could be videotaping your fingers, and you would never know it. They lead you to believe they're having a conversation with mom, picking up milk or whatever the other grocery list is. Of course, there's no conversation going on. It's strictly videotaping these as you navigate. So as I always tell people, very important to do is, you've got the debit card out, you have it in your hand, but to get it out in some form or another, you've got it from a wallet. When you've got it out, use that wallet when you insert it into the device to cover up the PIN pad. If you don't want to use the wallet, by the way, if you have the wallet in your hand, it's a good reminder if you walk away without the card that you left the card behind. Turn around and go get it. But if you're not comfortable putting that wallet out over top of the PIN pad, your alternative very easily is your other hand, and just place it over top. And just get in the habit of doing that regardless of where the PIN pad is. May it be a gas station, may it be in a grocery store, even a restaurant, because you do not know who's looking over the shoulder while you're sitting there finishing up your meal. You have no idea whose eyes, and like I said, whose camera is actually on you. And if they get the PIN, they get the card, they get your accounts. The other big one that's going on right now for older adults is the emergency scam, folks. And we can't say enough about this. And we need you to please take note of this. What happens is this device, this wonderful device, It was originally intended as a means of communication at great distances, i.e. called a telephone. Today has become a mobile computer, which gives us all access to the ability to store a whole lot of information. Many of us store things like pictures, naughty and nice, whether it's Christmas or otherwise, whether it's your contact list, your email addresses, your banking information, the list goes on. It is much more than just a telephone. But what it is today is an access, and it's the easiest access for me to get to you. And how do I do that? By you simply answering it and saying hello. Because if you answer the telephone, you are going to give up a minimum of 2 pieces of information, and very, very likely you are going to give up 4 pieces of information, possibly 5. And you can tell me all day long that you're not going to give up anything, but you will give up a minimum of 2. The first one is the fact that the telephone number is active. These fraudsters often do not know that that number is active until such time as it's answered. They're just cold calling. They're calling a series of numbers before they go to the next one on the list. They don't know what ones are active. They don't know who's on if there's anybody on the other end. So by answering it, I now know it's active. Secondly, I know the time of day that you've answered it. Thus, I know a time of day that you're available. If it's a computer, a robocall, it might at that point then connect to a human, or the computer just makes note of the fact that it's an active telephone number at this time of day, and then the human will call you at a later date, later time, generally around that time that you just answered it. The other 2 things are most concerning, folks, and yet it simply comes from a hello. I now know your gender. You've given me your gender, and you've given me your age demographic. And as much as you will not hope to not to give them any information, those 2 key pieces of information to a fraudster are extremely important, because a lot of times they don't know exactly why they're calling. They're calling with the intent to defraud you, but they don't know the scam that they're going to give you. Now they hold an older adult, male. Off comes the grandpa scam, a grandparent scam, emergency scam. Same with an older female. Younger person, they can come up with a different scam that they can run on them. But their voice has given me gender, it has given me age demographic, and in a lot of cases with Canadians, because we're such a diverse community, your voice also comes with an accent. And there are some countries in the world that if the authorities say that they're coming to get you, that's exactly what is going to happen. So if they're calling, they don't know exactly why they're calling. They may not be doing the emergency scam. Their intent might be to do the immigration scam, for example. The intent across the board is to rip you off, and they will present whatever it takes in their mind to rip you off. And people say, well, you know, I answer it, but I don't say anything. The very fact that you breathe, there's a noise in the background. If it's a computer-generated call, a robocall, it now knows that that's an active telephone line and time of day. So right off the bat, the bits of information. What I'm telling people, and this may sound strange because of the way we become in society, stop answering the phone. Just because it shows 905-647-2889, you think, oh, those are local telephone. That does not mean that the call is actually generated from local area. They can spoof any telephone number from anywhere in the world. And even if it's coming from the fraudster in Canada, of which there are many, by the way, folks, this is not all happening just outside Canada. The very fact that it's not in your contact list should be your opportunity and your requirement to not answer it. Allow it to go to voicemail. If you have a home telephone and not an answering machine, I implore you to get an answering machine. On your voicemail, same thing. Okay. If you haven't got the service available to you, pay the little extra. It's most of the plans all included nowadays, but use voicemail. What it becomes is your locked front door, as an analogy for you. It's a barrier. You don't know who's on the other side, i.e., you don't know who's calling you. And as long as you keep that barrier between you and them, they don't know who it is. Now, that said, your message should not be, hi, you contacted Jane at 123-456, because you just defeated the whole purpose. You again given me your age demographic from your voice. Your name often gives an age demographic as well, because names tend to work in cycles, in periods of years. And then you've offered a telephone number to me associated to a name that I may not have known either one of those before I called you. I just dialed a series that I didn't take note of. If you're going to do a message, your best message is to use what comes with the device. So all the answer machines will have a very electronic sounding, neutral message, not available, leave a message. Who cares? Your friends call you, your family calls you, they hear that the first time, the second time they're going to know it's you. It's your answer machine because they're calling you. If it's a stranger, they don't leave a message, well, guess what? They really didn't need to want to talk to you. If it's the hospital, the doctors, the dentist calling you, remind you of an appointment, they're going to leave you a message. It's going to be a quick one, just to remind you, appointment tomorrow at 2:00. And that makes it easier for both you and them, because they can move on to the next client and not have to carry on a conversation with you to be nice. They can move on, and you got your reminder. You didn't need to grab it right away. There was no reason why you interrupted what you were doing, but you still got your reminder, and that's what counted. Same thing with the cell phone. Like I said, let it ring out, go to voicemail. The beauties of an answer machine is you hear the voice. If you happen to hear the voice and you now realize it's Dr. Smith's office calling, you need to talk to Dr. Smith, you pick the telephone up, no loss in time. If it's a cell phone and it's gone to voicemail, about 2 minutes later, you're going to get the indicator that the message is there. You listen to it, you call them back at this number that has not come up in your contact list, because you didn't know who it was. Again, it allows you to do a filter. The other thing it does is allow you the opportunity to decide when you're going to call them, because right now may not be appropriate. You're driving, you're in the bathroom, whatever the case may be. You now have the choice to make that contact with them. But if you just blatantly open it, answer it, what so often happens, and people say, oh, no, I would never do this. And I'll tell you, in the regional municipality of Durham, we are reporting about 2 people a day, older adults, are getting caught in the emergency scam. And the average loss is $9,800 initially. It's as high as being reported as $150,000. Because once they get you on the initial hit, you've gone on the sucker list, and they will not let go of you until they've drained you dry. So people go, wow, I would never get caught in that. But what happens, folks, is that you will very faintly hear a voice at the other end. They will sound like they are in distress. They will sound like they're in trouble. They will ask you for help. And what do we do as good people, good citizens, as caring folks? We want to help. And you may find that very quickly you're offering a name, such as, Johnny, is that you? Well, it wasn't Johnny, but it is now, Grandma. Yes, I'm in trouble. And they will always tell you, again, now that COVID's over, the story has slightly changed. It's gone back to where it used to be. They're traveling outside Canada. The story will go on saying that they had a car accident. Turned out that, of course, that they were drinking and driving. They were arrested. They're in the hospital right now. That's why you can't hear them with clarity. They're having trouble speaking. They're getting attended to in the hospital. Oh, it's in the US. So there's a bill. $9,800 is the bill. Surprise enough. They've been arrested. So when they get clear of the hospital, they're going to be taken to jail for bail hearing. There will be lawyer fees, bail hearing fees, and the list will go on. The story will get worse, though. They will tell you that they hit a female. For some particular reason, they chose females, generally speaking, versus a male. But then they will tell you later that the female was pregnant. And if they get you well enough on the hook, You'll get a call the day after, somebody will claim to be the lawyer representing your grandchild, your family member. They'll tell you that they're there to represent the individual for bail, but there are more problems because the baby died. So they just make it a very, very ugly, ugly story. Now, there's been a number of different connections to that, and twist to that. In the past, they've said that they got caught with a trunk full of marijuana. A couple of times it's been weapons, but generally speaking, it's the alcohol run. The point being, at the end of the day, folks, is they're going to demand that you go to the bank and you get money. They're going to tell you not to tell anybody. Well, first of all, you don't go get money, because what they will do, and what they are doing, is they're sending complete strangers to your door. And people are literally opening up their door to a complete stranger and passing them cash. And like I said, the average rate now is $9,800 in the first time. So they are passing cash to a complete stranger who are showing up their house with the sole purpose of ripping you off. And if that sounds scary, it is. Those folks some of them are getting caught by police across the province of Ontario. But what's happening is that because they're the low end feeders, they're not being held accountable as a higher. In some cases, as it was said there too, they ask for gift cards. They don't tend to ask you for the numbers of the gift cards. Again, they were saying that they want someone to come to the door and pick the gift cards up. Once again, you're opening your door to a complete stranger whose sole purpose is to be part of a larger group that is ripping you off. And yet you're opening your door up and you're passing them the equivalency of cash. Who knows what they wish to do once your door is open? They tell you not to tell anybody. And I'll tell you, if you've made the mistake of answering the telephone for folks, one of the things that you will do is tell everybody the story. By the way, the other thing that they're doing with payments, it's not as common on this particular scam, but this is the number one scam going on in Ontario and across Canada and the US and in Europe. Emergency scam. It's very, very profitable for the bad guys. Is they convince you to go to the ATMs. There's a few of them around, usually in variety stores, and take your hard-earned cash and stick it into an ATM known as a Bitcoin machine. Now, a Bitcoin machine, Bitcoin is one of over 2,000 cryptocurrencies. What's a cryptocurrency? Quite simply, it's air. It does not exist. You will never be able to touch it. It's not tangible. They will tell you you get to wallet, you store it. All it is a whole bunch of markings in a computer. It does not exist. The value of the cryptocurrency is X today. It is Y tomorrow. And the change depends on the demand. So I'll give you an idea. Bitcoin, which is the most commonly known cryptocurrency, back in 2019, it got as high as $78,000 for one coin. Currently, today, it's around $30,000. It's worse than the stock market, folks. But at any time, anybody calls you and says that you are required to pay a bill in Bitcoin, it's a scam. Plain and simple. The fact that they just told you that it is Bitcoin payment, it's a scam. There are very few companies, very, very few companies that will accept Bitcoin as a payment. They're all still trying to figure out how best to do the different cryptocurrencies. They will never instruct you to go to an ATM and transfer money to pay your taxes or the emergency scam to help you, your family member. So that emergency scam is the number one big one. To give you how bad it is in Canada, they figure at best 5% of victims ever report. A Canadian Fraud Center, which collects that information only if you call them and contact them, in 2022 had just over 94,000 reports. Remember, that's across Canada. Population is about 34 million. $540 million in losses between 94,000 people. That is high losses per individual. And it is not anywhere near the true victimization that's happening in our country, unfortunately. The last big one I wanted to speak of, because I'm not sure exactly how much time, but I did go with 30 minutes, so I'm not sure there, Reverend, but I'm going to work with that, is the romance scam, folks. Again, that's I want to caution you on that because that's the number 2 scam that's hitting our older adults. For a variety of different reasons. We all want someone in our life that's extremely important to us. I get it. It is important. COVID caused isolation. Maybe your health is causing a degree of isolation. You've just gone through a death in the family, whatever the reasoning are. But what we're doing is we're returning to this device that you're looking at right now, known as a computer, and we're trying to interact with another human, more in a romantic world. If you were a younger person, it would be called catfishing. If you're not sure what a catfish is or a bottom feeder, they don't bite their food, they suck their food. The word sucker, that's where that comes from, folks. And I don't know if you appreciate being called a sucker. I would never want to be called a sucker, nor would I want to be caught as a sucker. But that's what this is all about, is how can they suck you in? And the romance scam, you will have someone come online, they'll connect with you through Facebook, they'll connect with you possibly through even those paid dating sites that you pay for, as well as the religious-based ones. You go, well, how's that possible, a fraudster? Because they all offer a free initial sign-up, so that they work very diligently in a very short period of time to catch as many people as they can, and then they switch mediums, or they just come up with a new profile very quickly. It is literally catching a lot of people, and it upwards. Worst case was $1 million in losses. The other issue that comes out of that is those who are engaged get caught in a romance scam, often very lonely at the beginning, possibly suffering some form of depression through the loneliness. And when they realize that they've not only the person who made them believe that they were important to, now they find out that that is all garbage, and that the only thing they really wanted was the wallet, the depression level goes up greater. So what we're actually seeing is an increase in older adults in suicide as a result of this. It can lead to other issues. If you have an opportunity, I highly recommend to take some time, go on YouTube. I believe it was W5 that came up with, profiled it, but it's called Cocaine Buttons. And Cocaine Buttons will tell you about an 82-year-old elderly woman currently serving time in Hong Kong, who started out with a romance scam. She lived in Rook region. Her husband died in 2015. She got scammed out of I think it was $240,000 to the romance scam. She then wrote a book about it. Believe it or not, she turned to someone on the internet who claimed to care about her. They wrote a chapter. They were a fraudster, by the way. They actually wrote a chapter in the book. You can buy her book. It's on the bookshelf. And eventually, what happened was, from that led to the fact that one day she received a ticket to go to Africa in the mail. She left for Africa the next day. And eventually what ended up happening is that she ended up going from Africa. After a month, she went to Hong Kong, and they gave her a suitcase of clothing. She called it ugly clothing, basically. But she was going to bring the suitcase home to her daughter, so her daughter wanted any of the clothes. And what it turned out was the buttons on that clothing, and there were substantive buttons, by the way, they weren't little buttons, and each button was a cake patty of cocaine. She is now at 82, facing 22 years, I believe it is, maybe 24, in prison in Hong Kong. Yeah, it was quite the thing, eh, Terry? Very, very scary how she got taken, not only once, on the romance scam. And I'm not judging her, folks, but what I'm saying is it shows you, shall I say, how easy it is to trap, because the first time she got trapped, she didn't realize it, lost substantive funds. The second time, the book, she thought she was actually dealing with legitimate people. The third time, she still thought it was legitimate because they weren't asking for her money. What they were looking for was a mule for their drugs, and they got one. when she went to Africa and then chose to go from Africa to Hong Kong versus getting out of there as quick as possible and getting back home to safety. And it looks like she's never going to return back to Canada at the rate things are going right now. Very, very problematic. And the reason I bring that up to you is that, loneliness is a terrible thing. It's hard. And organizations like Carry On Fin, who run these interactive experiences, and I know in the future, I believe it's in person for some of your presentations, your community groups, your libraries, all across the region of Durham and elsewhere. There's older adult centers, there's the provost clubs, and there's a whole list of other community-based organizations, Rotary, Lions, the list goes on. If you're not in the habit of joining these places, you might want to consider it. It gives you an opportunity to socialize with humans, as I call them, humanoids. They put the computers off to the side, you sit, maybe have a dinner with them, have a tea with them, whatever, you interact with people. And that is a great basis to any relationship, because you actually have a person that you know to be whomever they say in front of you, as opposed to obscure picture on a computer screen, or for that matter, usually a stolen picture on a computer screen that starts out with hi to, oh, I love you, dear, within about a month, to dear, I need your money because of this issue. And you go down those paths, folks. Again, I'm not judging anybody, but what ends up happening is things just get from bad to extremely worse. So if you're in the habit of that, relying on the internet for dating, you know what? Find a nice bar. Watch the hockey game tonight. You never know what'll happen, Well, we know what's going to happen to the Leafs. But at any rate, other than that, you never know what's going to happen, right? And if nothing else, it got you out of the house. It got you out of that environment that maybe just isn't, good place to be in for 24 hours a day type thing. But it got you a chance to get some fresh air. If from the other side of the fence, so folks, in individuals such as maybe those who are on here, if you have a friend or someone you haven't seen recently, I implore you to, it's time to go see them. Okay. As I tell people, if it's a next door neighbor, you haven't seen her in a while, empty out your sugar bowl and use that as an excuse, if you have to go and go visit her. I ran out of sugar. What you will find with people, it's a human trait that when we meet someone or something important in our life connects with us, we get excited. We want to tell people. So be non-traditional Canadian, and all of a sudden be nosy, get in their life, give them the opportunity to tell you that story, tell you where they met the person, get them to show you that picture on the internet. And then once you've got that picture on the internet, research it. Go to Google Images, go to TinEye, go to Pinterest, go to whatever source you can to validate that picture as an actual existing proper picture. Because what happens a lot of times is they've stolen that from a real person. And again, it doesn't necessarily, you can find that picture, but do remember that American soldiers trapped in Iraq don't know who you are in Pickering. And why would they be calling you in Pickering to get them home? Because that's the responsibility of the American military. Or that oil baron in Dubai that has the ship offshore that needs to pay the taxes. If you can own a shipload of oil, taxes are your problem. Anyway, you want to be careful of it. It's so very important.
I have to leave early from this because I'm part of a in-person group that the library runs. It's the Older Adult Advisory Committee, which I'm sure that you know because I think you've spoken to us.
Yes, Terry, we have. I know the face.
Yes.
Yeah.
But their monthly meeting is at 3:00. So I have to leave to get to the library to get to that meeting.
Okay.
So, but yeah, you and I have been in various meetings at the same time.
Because the
Excellent.
message has got to get out there, Terry, and sometimes
Yeah.
it sounds like I'm repeating myself, and it's most unfortunate that I have to repeat myself because people are not getting the message for whatever reason. Great that Carry On Fin Foundation is running this to get the message. Please share it, but I cannot overstress the number one way for me to get to your wallet is this device. This device is a means of communication. It's supposed to be an aid to your life. It is not supposed to control you. If it rings, who cares? If they need you, they will leave a message. If they don't leave a message, they didn't need you.
Anyways, I'm going because I have to be there. So it was nice seeing
Okay.
everybody.
Safe
and
travel.
See everybody in a week.
Thank you, thank you. And Martin, I'd like to thank you very much for your input here today and joining us here with the Carry On Fin Foundation. Yes, we did cut the time a little bit for this session, but we do appreciate your input. Thank you again for coming. Is there anything else that you'd like to say to us, or that was helpful information?
Yeah, just if you get the chance, YouTube cocaine buttons. Very, very eye opener.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you
Thank you
very
very
much.
much. We
My
appreciate
pleasure.
you.
I have to go back to the older adult academy right now. So
Take care.
all the best. Bye-bye.
Okay. And welcome back. I'm back again. I'm not really sure why I keep getting kicked out. Okay. You know what? I'm gonna read it. Sarah, you're already get there. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna do this trivia the next time. So Sarah, thank you very much for joining us. Carry On. Thank you for putting this together. And thanks, Sarah. And that was really great. I enjoyed the speakers as I always do, and I will have more trivia next week, and hopefully I won't get kicked out. So everybody enjoy the rest of your week.
Great
And
job, Rev.
we'll see you next week.